Welcome to our series of sermons on Genesis, and we're now up to Genesis chapter 12 with Abraham and Sarah. Just a quick recap. So Genesis chapter 1 and chapter 2, the inbuilt blessing that God's put into creation, the blessing for plants and for animals and for humans, for creation to continue and go on. And you're part of that continuing creation. It didn't stop in Genesis 1 and Genesis 2 because God's built into creation the ability to continue and to make new things. And you're part of that. Whether you're part of having created something or someone physical by actually giving birth to children or grandchildren, or whether it's ideas, or whether it's the way that you've worked with the environment. And we all reflect God's image. Male and female together reflect something of the diversity within God. And you have something unique about you that reflects something of God. And when it's all put together in the body of Christ and in our communities, then good things happen. Genesis chapter 3. There's the two trees, or Genesis 2 and 3, there's the two trees in the middle of the garden. Don't eat from these, the tree of life and the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And we've explored changing the name of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil to the tree of entitlement. Because remember, the serpent says, "Oh, you'll be like God. Why don't you eat it?" And I think that whole entitlement is says a lot more to us and grabs us. And I look at my own self and think, okay, here I am, all these places where I think I'm entitled. And it usually gets me into trouble. Then Genesis chapter 3. Adam and Eve disobey God, and there's sin, broken connections between humans and God, broken connections between man and woman, broken connections between humans and creation. And that evil then keeps going. We see in Genesis chapter 4, we saw Cain killing Abel. And by the time we get to the end, or Genesis 5 and 6, the whole earth is filled with evil. But there's always grace in spite of sin. Little signs and big signs. So Adam and Eve are ashamed and naked, and God makes clothes for them. When Cain says, okay, I've killed my brother and now no one is going to welcome me, I'm not safe anywhere, people know I'm a murderer, God puts a sign of his protection on him so that people know this murderer, even though he's done incredibly evil things, is under God's protection. When it comes to the flood, God chooses Noah. I'm going to rescue you and I'm going to start again. And there's a big change happens in those chapters from Genesis 6 to 9. God changes. After the flood, and when Noah builds the altar and makes a sacrifice of thanksgiving to God, God commits to working with humans in spite of their sin, to never again pulling the plug and washing them all away. God commits to the slow, painful work of working with us as we are. Then, after the Tower of Babel, people being scattered, and with all the movement of people around the Middle East at that time, God chooses one ordinary couple, Abraham and Sarah. They're already on the move. Terah, Abraham's father, has got them all going, and already they've done the journey of maybe 800 kilometers. They've traveled up the river from Ur up to Haran. And, okay, this looks all right. So Terah settles there. But then God calls Abraham and Sarah, come to a place I'm going to show you. And miraculously, Abraham and Sarah obey. They pack everything up, all their goods and chattels, all their animals, all their staff, and they go. And they get to the land of Canaan, which was where Terah was originally wanting to get to, and everywhere's occupied. So they need land for their animals, so they're continually moving through it. They're well off, But here's the other thing, they're childless. They don't have their own child. There's no one to inherit. Their name isn't going to live on. But God makes these promises, 3 amazing promises. I'm going to give you this land to you and your descendants. You're going to become a great nation, which means they're going to have their own child. And through you, I'm going to bless the whole world. If people do the right thing by you, they'll be blessed. If people curse you, it's going to rebound on them. I'm working through you and with you. And so Abraham and Sarah learn to live by faith. Firstly, about the land. It's not theirs to just march in. It's not terra nullius that they can just come in and claim, or not land that they can conquer. It's not going to work that way. They have to trust that God's going to give it to them in God's way. And they're not told where to go. There's no printed itinerary, no GPS settings, no beds booked, no navman or something else to help you when you've hired your car in a strange country and maybe driving on the wrong side of the road in a place you've never been before. Nothing like that at all. They're just told to go. So they go and they trust. They're used to that lifestyle, but it's still a big thing. And they're simply going on God's promises and past experiences that God's looked after them. And we do the same as well. We're trusting that God has us. We've experienced it in the past, but also something that's different for us is that we've seen and known Jesus Christ and that revelation of God as one of us. And hopefully we've known the love of other people of faith and trust who've made that real for us. And so we have hope for the future. And we hope that we too are going to be a blessing to others. And that's why we live that servant lifestyle.